Welcome to another edition of the Boxing Hour. I'm Marc Abrams, the owner of the boxinghour.com and 15rounds.com, the two biggest and best boxing websites in the world. We have videos and columns, fight reports from ringside, fight reports from all around the world, all the latest boxing news from around the world, updated as fast as anyone on the web. That's the boxinghour.com and 15rounds.com. I have two big guests for you guys this week. I got Callum Walsh, who scored a big victory in the opener of the Zuffa Boxing Series, as well as the IBF Cruiserweight Champion of the World, Jai Opetaia, who'll be taking on Brandon Glanton on March the 8th, live on Paramount Plus for the inaugural Zuffa Cruiserweight Championship. Couple news items of the week. Ryan Garcia defeated Mario Barrios to win the WBC lightweight championship this past Saturday night on Las Vegas, live on the DAZN pay-per-view. Scores were 120 to 107, 119 108, and 118 to 109 for Garcia, who's now 25-2. He found that elusive world championship. This time is the WBC 140-pound world champion. The 147-pound world champion. I don't know why I said lightweight. 147-pound world champion as Ryan Garcia defeats Mario Barrios, scores a knockdown in the first 30 seconds of fight. And I thought the fight was going to be over shortly thereafter. Barrios was able to survive. Garcia boxed his way. Very solid performance from Ryan Garcia, put together 12 hard rounds and gets the victory, is now the WBC welterweight champion of the world. The obvious fight to make is the rematch with Devin Haney. I don't know if that's going to be next. I don't know if there's mandatories or whatever. But the Haney fight now becomes a big unification fight in the welterweight division, as Haney's now the WBO champion after his win over Brian Norman in November in Saudi Arabia. So I don't know. Again, obviously Turki Al-Sheikh is going to, look to do the biggest fights out there. And I think one of the biggest fights in the game is Garcia and Haney, the rematch, after all the controversy, both preceding, during, and after the first fight that took place in Brooklyn a couple years back, that Garcia tested positive for the banned substance and ultimately got him a year suspension. You got to give Garcia credit. He had the terrible performance against Rolly Romero back in the summer to come back and put a real solid 12 rounds in against Mario Barrios, and he is now a world champion. It looks like, he's still with Golden Boy for a few more fights, according to Oscar De La Hoya. So we shall see what happens next. The undercard saw the WBA super lightweight champion Gary Antoine Russell win a tough unanimous decision over Andy Hiroka. Hiroka, who arrived just a couple days earlier from Japan. Scores were 117, 110, and 116, 111. Hiroka was deducted a point for low blows during the fight. But Hiroka, you got to give him some credit for the effort he put in there. He's a big, strong 140-pounder, and I expect to see him in some other big fights in that division. One fight that did not happen in that division was Richardson Hitchens and Oscar Duarte. That fight was scrapped about an hour or so before the fight card began in Las Vegas due to Hitchens getting ill after the second day weigh-in as mandated by the IBF. Vomited a couple times. He made the weight twice, but then he got sick doing the second day weigh-in. And we shall see. I think earlier in the week they mandated Hitchens to make his mandatory defense, and Duarte could get screwed out of the picture for the moment. Best fight on the card was the fight between Frank Martin and Nahir Albright. It was a terrific fight. Both guys were rocked during the fight. It was a 95-95 draw on all three judges' scorecards. Martin now 19-1-1, Albright 17-2-1. That's a fight I wouldn't mind seeing again. Albright again proved that he belongs. He had a bad loss against Jermaine Ortiz, a close loss against Keyshawn Davis, which was overturned to a no contest. Albright actually lost his pro debut way back when, but he's now he's a legitimate player in the 140-pound division, and he's deserving of these fights against these big-name guys. So whether it's Martin next or whoever at 140 pounds, expect to see Nahir Albright and Frank Martin, for that matter, to be in those good quality fights. Bektemir Malakuziev scored his 7th-round stoppage over Sina Igbeko. Malakuziev, probably see him fight for 168-pound world title sooner than later. 17-1 now. Igbeko falls to 29-5. And the fight that replaced the Hitchens Duarte fight on the pay-per-view portion of the card, Amari Jones, a good-looking middleweight prospect, goes to 16-0 as he stopped Luis Arias, the veteran, now 22-7 in round 4 of their 10-round fight. So good night in Las Vegas. The next night in Detroit, Claressa Shields, in front of 18,000 of her adoring fans, scored her 2nd unanimous decision over Franchon Cruz DAZN to retain the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. Shields dominant in that fight. Again, drawing power, 18,000 on a Sunday night in Detroit. And Claressa Shields proves that she may be one of, if not the best drawing American fighter in this country. So we shall see what she does next. She's going up and down these weight classes. Possible fight with Shadazia Green, maybe at 168 pounds. Possible fight with Michaela Mayer at maybe 160 pounds. And after that, I mean, unless someone pops out of the woodwork, what more is going to be left for Claressa Shields to do? I mean, she's pretty much handled everyone in her way, and she's slowly but surely. I mean, if you don't believe she was the GOAT before, she has a real good chance to end up legitimately being the unanimous GOAT when she hangs up the gloves. A couple of big news items this week. Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao getting it on again September 19th in Las Vegas at the Sphere this time. 49 and 47 years old, 11 years after their first fight. Count me in. I'm if I have a chance to go out there, I was at the first one, so I might as well take in both of them. So it looks like Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao Part 2 will be coming to Las Vegas very, very soon. Conor Benn is going to fight on Regis Prograis on the Tyson Fury Makhmoudev card on April the 5th in April 11th, I believe, in England, in Manchester, England. So Conor Benn, the $15 million man, they're calling him for Zuffa Boxing, going to take on Regis Prograis at 150 pounds. Got a couple good interviews for you this week. Callum Walsh coming off his victory in the first inaugural Zuffa Boxing Series, and this is how it sounded. Now joining me on the line is Callum Walsh, who couple of weeks ago opened up the Zuffa Boxing Series with a tremendous performance as Carlos Ocampo. We'll talk to you a couple of weeks after that. Cam, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm feeling very good.
Just a quick recap. Talk about, I'm sure you had a chance to view the fight since the last couple of weeks. Tell us what you thought of your performance.
Yeah, right after the fight, I was a bit disappointed. I didn't get the finish, but I looked out at Dana White and he said to me, you can't knock them all out. You know what I mean? It's not going to happen. It's not possible. You can't knock them all out. And then when I really looked back on the performance, I was happy with it. I feel like I boxed well. I felt like my cardio looked good. I felt like I felt good in there. And at the end of the day, Carlos Ocampo has only been beaten by 3 champions. You know what I mean? And I beat him convincingly at a higher weight class. So overall, yeah, I'm very happy with it.
Talk about that, the higher weight class. So much talk about some of the things that Zuffa Boxing is doing. They're maybe just going to be sticking with some of the original weight classes. You fought that at middleweight. How did I think you were at 159.5 or something like that. How did that feel moving up a few pounds?
Yeah, it felt good. It was an easier weight cut. It wasn't anything too crazy. I felt fine. I didn't feel like I was small at the weight. You know what I mean? Yeah, I felt good, and obviously I'm still open to fighting at 154 pounds, if there's opportunities there for me. But yeah, but right now I'm happy at 160 over there at Zuffa Boxing.
Yeah, I know a lot of times boxing, especially fighters, they talk about the learning experience, being in there, like you said, with a veteran guy like Ocampo. You feel like you learned a lot in that fight, going the whole 10 rounds, and being in there with a guy who's been there and knocking on the door of a world title?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I took a lot away from that fight. He had a lot of experience, a lot of fights. He's been in there with some of the best of them, and the fact that I was able to go in there and beat him over 10 rounds, it was good for me. It was just because he's that tough Mexican style. If I had gone in there and just knocked him out in the first round, maybe I wouldn't have. I've been able to get that experience of being in there with a Mexican veteran and being able to just, do it over 10 rounds. So I feel like yeah, it was good. It was a good experience, and I can definitely take that with me throughout my career.
Over the last couple of years, you've started your relationship with the UFC and Zuffa, fighting a lot of fights on UFC Fight Pass, and then getting a great spot as the co-feature on the Canelo Crawford undercard, and now you're kind of like always people say the face of boxing. You may be one of the faces of the Zuffa boxing as it gets started. How's that feel to be one of the guys that they've tapped on you for this large endeavor?
Yeah, it feels very good. It just feels natural, really. I've been involved with the UFC and Dana and stuff for a while. So if they were going to start a boxing organization, it would only be natural for me to go over and fight there. And I'm very happy to be fighting there. It's a very well ran organization. Everything is very, perfect over there. And the whole fight week, everything they make it so much easier, and they make it all good for the athletes. We all have access to the UFC, Performance Institute. We have access to the nutritionist, everything you can imagine, the recovery. So that side of it is very good, and just being involved with it, it's great. I really enjoyed it.
You've checked a lot of boxes all your career, like you said. You're the first main event on the Zuffa Boxing Series. You were the co-feature in front of 70,000 people in Allegiant Stadium. Talk about that experience. I know we're going back one fight, but talk about that experience in terms of you probably looked up in the crowd. Did you have a little bit of a wow moment as you looked in that big stadium in September?
Yeah, it was very cool. It was the biggest crowd I've ever fought in front. It was probably the biggest crowd I've ever seen. Never mind fought in front of. And yeah, it was crazy. I walked out and I tried not to look around too much, before the fight. And once I got my hand raised, yeah, I looked around and I really took it in. And it's a fight that'll probably go down in history. Canelo Crawford. It's going to go down in history. And I was the co-main event. And I'll always be the co-main event. And yeah, it's something. If even if my career doesn't go too well, I'll have that story to tell in the pub, and you know what I mean.
Well, it's going well. It's going very well. Still undefeated. A lot of fighters talk about the support they get from not necessarily the people on their team, but their family. And you have a very cool story that your girlfriend is Tabitha. She's a UFC fighter. You guys know what each other are actually going through. You come home from a long day of training. You can actually kind of be there to understand. And likewise, what's that like when when you go home and you maybe have a bad day or you suffer a cut at sparring or whatever. You guys can commiserate on that.
Yeah, it's very cool, and it helps the lifestyle too, like right after, like I just fought and now she's in camp for her fight, she's fighting April 4th. So it's like it helps the lifestyle too, I get out of my camp and I finish with my fight and now she's in camp, so I'm kind of like, God, I can't be lazy, I can't just sit around and do nothing since I don't have a fight. So it keeps me going, it keeps me training, you know what I mean? And yeah, it's very helpful, especially like you said, have someone that understands what you're going through, what you're mentally and physically every single day. It's like, yeah, if you come home from a bad day sparring, and you have a girlfriend that doesn't understand fighting or doesn't understand what you're doing, she's asking you, oh, take out the trash, do this, do this. You know what I mean? It's like, whereas at least I can tell Tyler, like, oh, sparring was shit today. You know what I mean? I'm sick. And they can kind of understand how it is, to have a bad day. So it definitely helps.
Just going quickly back to the Ocampo fight. Like I said, I'm sure you watched the watch the tape. you got a couple big comparisons by Max Caliber. You got the Joe Calzaghe and the Roy Jones comparison. Like you said, what's it like to hear your name saying that your style or you're kind of looking like some of these all time legends? What's that do for your confidence when you hear a guy like Max Caliber who's been around the business for a long time mention stuff like that?
Yeah, it's crazy, because I was training in the gym one day, and I actually watched that fight was on the TV, it was Joe Calzaghe and Roy Jones, and I watched the fight a couple of times, you know what I mean, and I don't know, maybe it was just subconsciously in the back of my mind, when I was fighting, but yeah, Joe Calzaghe is one of those fighters, I've always been very interested in, I've always watched him, I really like his style, and yeah, it's something I've been kind of working on a little bit, and I don't know if I would go as far as like comparing to me to them right now, you know what I mean? But yeah, maybe in the future, who knows? I might be up there with some of them.
You just got out of the ring, basically. Do you have a time frame or even a date when we can expect to see you back in there?
I'm hoping April or May. You know what I mean? I've been asking to get me in there right away. I feel like I'm ready to get back in there, and yeah, April or May would be good.
Anything you want to say to the fans in closing? You got fans all over the world now. Like I said, you've been on some high profile events. A lot of fans who hadn't seen you before have been very impressed, myself included. What do you want to say to the fans in closing?
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for the support, as always, and yeah, I'm going to continue to keep getting better and keep putting on performances for everyone.
And last question, where can we find you on the social media?
Yeah, you can find me on everywhere, King Callum Walsh.
There you have it, King Callum Walsh. Thank you for a few minutes of your time. We're going to be watching you on Zuffa Boxing going forward, and we wish you best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank There you have it. Callum Walsh, the Irish fighter. He's kind of the first guy that was linked and signed with the Zuffa Boxing. But up until last week, when Conor Benn signed with Zuffa Boxing, the biggest name that signed, the only sitting world champion to sign with Zuffa Boxing, was the IBF Cruiserweight champion of the world, Jai Opetaia. And he'll make his Zuffa Boxing debut and fight for the Zuffa championship, along with defending his IBF belt when he takes on Brandon Glanton on March the 8th, live on Paramount Plus. And I had a chance to talk to the world champion, and very interesting interview. He's a very vicious fighter in the ring, and you can tell he's a real tough guy, and he means what he says. And I had a chance to talk to him, and this is how it went. Now joining us on the line is the IBF Cruiserweight champion of the world. And on March 8th, we take on Brandon Glanton for the first ever Zuffa championship, the Cruiserweight championship. Jai Opetaia. Jai, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much, Marc. How are you?
Doing good. Thank you for taking a few minutes of your time. Where was we taped this? We're just about 2 weeks out of this. How you feeling going into this fight on the 8th of March?
Feeling very well. I've been training hard. We're prepared for 12 hard rounds. Where everything's going good. We got some hard sparring this week. And then time to tape it down and get ready for war.
Brandon Glanton, real tough guy. Is your opponent? Did speak on him?
Tough. Everyone knows he's tough. Everyone knows he's going to come forward and try and bring it. So, we've got to fucking make sure we got to answer for it all. I've prepared well. Let's see what happens, eh?
Fighting in Las Vegas. Obviously the fight capital world. There's a lot of big fights there. What are your thoughts fighting in Las Vegas? I know you've been out there for a little bit now. What are your thoughts? A dream come true, huh?
Well, it's good to be here. Las Vegas, man. Having my first fight here, defending my world title, and also being able to fight for the Zuffa title. It's huge. There's 3 belts on the line here. We got the IBF, the Ring Magazine, and the Zuffa. So this is a big fight. This is a big step, and man, we're excited. So it's always been my dream to have a fight here in Vegas and fight for world titles. So we're here now. We're in the midst of it. We're amongst the fucking. We're in the era of Jai Opetaia. You know what I mean? This is my prime time, I believe. It's very exciting.
Years from now, you're gonna. I mean, you actually. I mean, you are now. You're gonna be known as a trailblazer, the first sitting world champion, first real big name fighter to jump over to Zuffa boxing. Take us through the thought process in terms of making that decision.
Trailblazer, eh? I like the sound of that. You know, we've always done things different on my end. You know, even down our neck of the woods, we've always had to take different paths and, you know, fucking scratch and claw to get to where we fucking needed to be. You know, it's always been a long route for us, you know, and it's always been a different route as well because no one's ever tried to help us. No one's ever tried to, you know, we've never had taken shortcuts. Everything we've got, we've earned, you know, and now people are starting to notice and especially Zuffa's starting to notice as well. So that's why we've signed with him. Yeah, what was your question again? Like,
Well, you actually answered about the thought process, but you know, sometimes it's tough being the first. I mean, was there any trepidation? Like, for instance, I believe you opened the door. Obviously, Zuffa just announced a huge signing of Connor Ben. Maybe without a guy like you going over there, maybe that doesn't happen. I don't know, but obviously you kind of opened the door, and I would imagine there's be a lot of other big name,
the
even
first.
world champions coming over. I mean, I mean, you're going to be a guy that's going to be known as the guy who kind of opened the door for a lot of these big name fighters.
So we've been opening doors for, you know, people down our neck of the woods for a long time now. You know what I mean? It's not new to us, this feeling. You know, this is just another day in the office, like I said. You know, now we're just dealing with different people, but we've always had to make these decisions and these decisions that have a big impact, you know, and we've always just, you know, fucking rode them out and stuck by our guns, you know. So whatever comes, and you know, I'm excited to be with Zuffa. I believe Zuffa's going to be a huge chapter in the boxing world from now on, and I'm honored to have my last name Opetaia a part of this movement. So it's exciting.
Not looking past Brandon Glanton, but the cruiserweight division. You know, who do you feel is your biggest competition? I mean, there's other champions out there. Noel McCallion is a world champion. A couple other guys out there. Zerto is fighting Benavides. Is maybe the big fight at cruiserweight, Jai Opetaia versus the winner of that fight May 2nd?
Definitely. But like you said, I got a job to do. You know what I mean? I got a job to do on March 8th. And without doing that job, it's all just a fucking fantasy. So, you know, we got to take care of business and we got to take care of it properly. You know, so it's exciting. Let's get this fight done. And whoever's next, I don't give a fuck, to be honest. I'll fight any of the other champions. I want undisputed. You know, so whoever comes first, that's who I got to fight. I do not care who I fight first.
And I know your name. I know on some of the pundits, and I'm sure you read it. At some point, I would imagine a move to heavyweight will be in your future. You know, a couple of years down the line after you do what you just said that you wanted to do. Would that be correct?
Yeah, it would be correct, but undisputed first. You know, people don't lose track. I want to become undisputed cruiserweight world champion, and once I've done that, then whatever comes. You know, so I keep throwing this heavyweight world around, and people get excited, and you know, do it now, mate. I've got a job to do. You know, I've got to take care of March 8th. You know, and there's nothing wrong with the way I make weight. You know, I'm fucking confident that I can be undisputed. That is my goal. Undisputed, undisputed, undisputed.
Obviously, you've have a great fan base in Australia. How important is it to you to thrill the American fans and capture the imagination of the American public? And you know, you have a great platform in Paramount Plus to do it on.
Yeah, man, it's good. You know, I'm excited to be here. You know, it's good to be here on these new platforms and build a new fan base. But like I said, bro, I got to keep winning. I got a
How does
job to
Mar
take care of.
how does March 8th end?
My hand raised.
Not you're not looking for the knockout, or if the you one of those guys who look for the knockout. When you're in there, you're a very aggressive, vicious kind of fighter. Do you go looking for the knockout?
If it comes, it comes. I'm not gonna chase it too much. That's when you start to make mistakes. I've learned a lot from my last couple fights. And I honestly feel like I'm getting better, and I'm boxing better, and I'm getting stronger, I'm getting fitter. So I'm just, wherever this fight wants to fucking go, let's go there.
Glanton's a guy who's been in a lot of, quote, fan-friendly type of fights. I think does that fit right into your wheelhouse? He's a guy who looks like he may be right there in front of you for the bulk of the night.
Hey, man, whatever it takes. You know what I mean? Whether he's in front of me, he's on the front foot, back foot, we adapt and we win the fight. We find the hole, we box smart. And if the fucking punch comes, it comes. I've got the power to knock people out. There's no doubt about that. You know what I mean? So how tough is he?
Last couple questions. What do you want to say to the fans in closing?
Well, I appreciate everyone's support. If you're supporting me, bro, let's fucking do this. Let's ride it. You know what I mean? And if you're not supporting me, fuck you. That's it.
And finally, where does the fans get to follow? If they want to follow Jai Opetaia on social media, where's the best way to find you?
Bro, wherever, man, just type in my name, bro, Jai Opetaia. If you want to find me, you can find me pretty easy. You know what I mean? Undisputed. Let's fucking age.
I have a feeling Brandon Glanton and yourself you're not gonna have trouble finding each other on March the 8th. We look forward for an awesome fight, and congratulations on the new venture with Zuffa Boxing. We look forward to following you in your journey to become undisputed, and who knows, maybe undisputed heavyweight champion as well someday. Jai, thank you for a few minutes of your time. We look forward to talk to you along the way.
Thank you, mate. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Jai.
Everybody.
Best of luck. Thanks, Greg. Jai Opetaia, the Cruiserweight champion, doesn't mince words, does he? He's very direct in what he wants to do March 8th and in his fights going forward. Not much really going on this weekend of note. The Zone's got a show Saturday afternoon from Derby, England. Owen Cooper takes on Constantine Ursero for 11-1 against 14-0. That'll be for the British welterweight in the Commonwealth boxing calendar. So welterweight championships Friday night, Pro Box TV. Edward Vasquez, Edward the Kid Vasquez, former couple-time world title challenger, in action as well on Saturday night. Also, probably the best fight of the weekend, Emmanuel Navarrete on the Zone takes on Sugar Nunez in a unification fight at 130 pounds. That's going to be a real good fight. Philadelphia's Tamir Smalls takes on Abel Ramos in the co-feature. That very, very interesting fight for a guy like me who's watched Tamir Smalls grow up. He's a 1,000-round sparring partner of Boots Ennis. They're in the same camp under Bozy and Lawrence Smalls, who's Tamir's father. So that should be an interesting fight. Navarrete, I kind of like Nunez on this fight. Navarrete hasn't looked great lately. He's been in some wars, maybe a little long too. Should be an action-packed fight between two real tough, gritty Mexican warriors. And it's going to be an action-packed fight Saturday night on the Zone. Also on Amazon Prime, Manny Pacquiao Promotions as Elijah Pierce take on Lorenzo Parra. So that should be a interesting, a good weekend of fights. Not like anything, no pay-per-views finally this weekend, but the pay-per-views going to become hot and heavy. We're going to be back next week. If any breaking news happens, we're going to jump right on, do lives as well. So I'd like to thank everyone for joining us. Thanks, Jai Opetaia. Thanks, Callum Walsh. And like I said, for the latest boxing news, theboxinghour.com and 15rounds.com. Everyone, we will talk to you next week and have a good time enjoying the fights. Navarrete against Sugar Nunez, a good fight on the Zone Saturday night.